This week on Head to Head, the new Rise of Skywalker trailer is probably coming tonight.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Darryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. So, I don't know, a couple of weeks or so ago, the Joker movie opened.
Yep.
Now, you remember how there was a lot of... There's hype surrounding it. Then there was also some fear that, people thought that somebody was going to come in the theater and open fire, kind of like what they did with Dark Knight and everything. Now, I saw the movie. You saw the movie?
I did.
What'd you think?
Awesome. Phenomenal movie.
Yeah, it was. And it definitely was not a movie for kids. I mean,
oh, no, man.
This
Jesus Christ,
is not like a superhero movie or anything like that. I mean,
no,
it was.
That's why it's rated R.
Yeah, and it actually wasn't as violent or anything as I expected it to be, but it was very, very dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a dark movie. It was brilliantly acted by Joaquin Phoenix. It was, breathtaking cinematography.
Yeah.
I thought that it captured the whole almost like Taxi Driver vibe, really good. I can't say enough good things about the movie at all. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Well, for me, of course, I'm a huge Batman fan. And of course, the Joker is like literally one of my favorite characters of all time, especially villains compared to Vader. But I thought the movie was excellent. I thought it was really, it was really interesting. And especially for me, because I thought I had reservations about the movie. I was like, okay, what is this really? I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be a typical superhero movie. Right. And I knew it was going to deal with his origins, but I was just like, okay, how are they really going to do this? Because there's so many different versions of it.
There's so many different versions of it. And, even in the comic books, it really depends on what...
Who's writing it?
Who's writing it? Yeah.
Yeah, they had, and you have all different types of scenarios of who killed Batman's parents. So it was first it was the Joker, then there was some guy named Joe Chill, and then it was just some regular, hoodlum guy. And then, so there's all this different thing. And so I even liked how, I won't give the movie away, but just that scene when they showed, the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, I kind of like how they did that.
Oh, I love how they did that.
Yeah.
I also love how, in a way, they kind of foreshadowed the Batman thing with Bruce just kind of standing there.
Yeah, and Alfred being all ticked off.
I mean, it was really cool.
I didn't like the way. I don't think I didn't like was how they did Thomas Wayne, because that was inaccurate.
Yeah.
But
I mean, again, it was kind of like an alternate universe kind of a thing in a way.
But in a way, it's kind of like I didn't like it because it kind of went against what we always knew about Thomas Wayne. But on the other side, though, it's kind of like you never know what people are kind of like sometimes away. So it's like he's always been kind of this white knight for Gotham. But, in some instances, he kind of had a dark side to him.
It was plausible, I think, the way that they dealt with it. And that's what I thought was kind of interesting about it. Like
the whole laugh being like an actual neurological condition.
Yeah, that was
brilliant.
A brilliant
move.
Exactly.
And I can't say enough about Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, especially he literally was the entire movie. Like he was never not on screen. So for the whole movie to basically be centered around this guy.
Yeah, and to keep up that intensity. I mean...
Yeah. And then even how much weight he lost, because I didn't even know. I thought he was actually that small, but actually... I
remember one of the first movies that... I've seen a lot of movies he was in, but when he played Johnny Cash in Walk the Line, that I thought was a brilliant performance. And to see the difference when he was in that to this... Yeah,
was absolutely...
He's definitely a method actor.
Yeah, and there was some comedy in it, but it was dark comedy.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was some real dark comedy in it, but I did have to, me, I have that dark sense of humor, so I laughed at stuff. So
absolutely.
Well, definitely go check it out, though.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out. Just don't realize that it's a dark movie. Don't take your kids or whatever. Tell you, man, after a movie like that, I gotta go to the Cantina. I mean, I have to.
Gotta de-stress yourself.
Well, first, George could end up being about as crazy as a Joker if, things keep going the way. I mean, it's funny because you keep hearing all these things about how George's feelings have been hurt, how he feels betrayed by Disney, This stuff's been coming up again. What's our first story here?
So, good old George Lucas, the founder, creator, the, brain trust behind the whole Star Wars franchise, is a bit perturbed at the way that the sequel trilogy has been handled, especially because he had treatments for the sequels and none of them were used, or maybe very little of it has been used. And I guess that was kind of what he was thinking, especially when he turned everything over to Disney. So, there's been kind of this whole rift that's kind of been going on, especially between Bob Iger and good old George. So honestly, though, we will never see now, I remember we saw some treatments beforehand, but we don't know how, because of their source, we don't really know if those were accurate, which I highly doubt.
They were accurate.
The ones we saw before?
Yeah, the one with the whole, the wills, and they're these microscopic beings and all that.
The whole clone thing, though, when, Palpatine... Remember he had those paratroopers and they were all...
No. You're thinking of a Super Shadow
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. That was...
Yeah, no.
But then there was another...
No. Yeah, the treatments that George actually had, were basically the basic storylines where he had, Kira was, I think, the Rey character or whatever. And then Luke was somewhat disenfranchised, and that was actually part of Lucas's thing. And then but a lot of it was going to center on the wills, and there are these microscopic beings that make up the Force or something. So he was gonna do some really weird stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. It could go either way because it is George Lucas, and maybe he could have made this thing fly and feel like Star Wars. I don't know, but even though there's a lot of people running around screaming Disney ruined my childhood and, all this stuff because they're not quite happy with the sequel trilogy. And I could see that. I mean, there are some things in the sequel trilogy that, quite frankly, I think do fall a little short. But overall, I've been happy with the story so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the thing with George is that he's a great storyteller.
Yeah. Yeah.
From Red Tails to Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and Red Tails is a movie that people overlook, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And he's a great storyteller. So, I mean, right, and even though as much as people hate the prequels, they just hate the execution of it.
Right.
But the story itself,
the story is cool.
It's cool. So I can kind of understand, I kind of, and of course we would never know, but I would love to have seen what the actual story was and if it had actually been carried out to the letter of George Lucas. Would we be like, oh man, we just still had J.J. Abrams and everybody else still directing the stuff, but it's this is the story though. So we'll never know. I mean, do you think he has a right to be upset?
Yeah, I think he probably does have a right to be upset, only because I think that maybe Disney led him to believe that they were going to use a lot of the stuff. But, there's nothing stopping him, as far as I know, from just go off and make a standalone film. Now, he has been involved a little bit with some of the stuff. I know that people keep talking to him, about their stories and... trying to involve Lucas in some way. He was a little bit involved in Rogue One. He was really involved, in Solo, and it's really the saga movies that he's kind of stayed away from.
Right.
But he's, Benioff and Weiss have talked to him.
Even JJ's thought,
JJ's been talking to him and everything. So I think that people are trying to keep somewhat, keep him somewhat in the loop, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I can see that if they led him to believe that, okay, yeah, we're going to make these movies and, go ahead and give us your ideas or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, see ya.
Yeah. I mean, well, I can understand that if they actually led him to believe that was going to happen or if that was part of the deal, and they just altered the deal.
Yeah, pray I don't alter the deal further or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, that's one thing. But I mean, honestly, like once you kind of give it over to somebody, it's
that's
like,
true.
It's like, well, you can't cry about it. I mean,
that's
you gave
true.
It to
I mean, you should have kept it and just made your own movies. And actually, I think Lucas actually said that in an interview somewhere. We're like, well, maybe I should have made these movies and then sold it or something. I don't know. Or,
you know what? Honestly, I would love for Dave Filoni to actually be the guy to come up with the stories because he's done so well with Clone Wars and Rebels and everything like that. Like he's just put together some masterpieces of work, as far as storytelling. I'm not even talking about just the anime, just the storytelling of it all has been great.
Well, and so I would love to see. He's taught to Lucas a lot too.
Well, that's like basically his understudy.
Well,
so
sure. I mean, even in recent stuff, like after Lucas sold it off or whatever, he's constantly keeping in touch.
Yeah. So I think that would be honestly to me that would be the smart move is instead of everything kind of going through Pablo and Bob Iger, I don't think I would let things go.
Well, I mean, the story group was still involved even with Dave Filoni. I mean, there's still a lot of things because you need the story group because they're the ones that are keeping the continuity and
right with the books,
looking
and
at
and everything,
the whole
games.
Overall thing. Exactly.
Right.
They're not necessarily coming up with the stories. They're just
keeping everybody
in check and saying, okay, you can do that with this character. You can't do that because of this thing over here. And
right.
I mean, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully Lucas comes around, and I'd actually like to see him return to the Star Wars universe or a movie. There's no reason why he couldn't do his own movie or trilogy. I mean, why not?
Well, I mean, unless it's out of the contract, though.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily I mean, Disney owns the thing. Obviously, the only thing that might be tough for him is that he would, like Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger can go, you know what? No, we don't like this. And he'd be like, dude, I'm George Lucas. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, but you don't own this anymore. But if they just said, look, just make the Star Wars movie you want and we'll release it, who knows? Obviously, it would have to fall. The problem is it would have to fall within the canon.
Now, yeah.
That's where things could get a little bit tricky. Mm-hmm. All right, what do we got next?
All right, man. So a question for you.
Speaking of Lucas, right?
Exactly. So out of the original trilogy, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, out of those three films, which was the worst film to you?
The worst?
Yes.
Well, I mean, what are we qualifying as the worst?
Well, I mean, they're all good. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, they're
well, I mean, but I mean,
iconic, but I mean, like, what do you think was like? Because everybody has their favorite, like, their favorite.
Well, see, that's
now I know that's subjective. Favorite versus best, as far as production wise, as far as storytelling. May not be like there might be a better film, but it may not be your favorite. Like, I get it.
Yeah. Or
so, not so much what's your favorite, but what do you think is the least desirable film, as far as not based upon your favorite, what you like, but just content wise?
Oh, easy. Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because A New Hope was groundbreaking. A New Hope won was nominated for a bunch of Oscars and won a couple of them for a reason. It's still what people point to is like, it'll stand up to your Godfathers and Casablancas and all that stuff. Not just because it's it's a fantasy movie, but it is actually a good film. Mm-hmm. It had the whole, it took the hero's journey concept and it's like a good film. People like film critics and everything will look at A New Hope and go, this is a good film. Empire Strikes Back, it's kind of the same thing. It's actually known in the film community as probably the best sequel that's ever made. Mm-hmm. There's some people that even say it's one of the best movies ever made.
Right.
For the same reason. I mean, it's just technically a great film. Mm-hmm. Return of the Jedi, on the other hand, while it was a really good movie and everybody acknowledges it, out of the three, it was not as technically good. You started to see a little bit of problems that's why it wasn't. But I mean, honestly, Return of the Jedi is probably my second favorite movie of the trilogy, though.
Right. Me too.
But, I can look at it objectively and go, yeah, but it's not a better film than A New Hope. It just isn't. From a technical standpoint.
And we're talking about the originals, not the remastered versions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter.
Because you're just going based upon like the story, the
execution, the acting, just the editing, the way everything was put together.
It was the Ewoks, wasn't it? That's what screwed it up for you.
It's not even so much that. Honestly, as a film, yes, the Ewoks ruined it for me, even as a 13-year-old. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay. I mean, they were cool for a little bit. They should have just been like a little thing that, like, maybe that whole scene with Wicket and all that, and help them get back on their feet. And then, even though I knew what George Lucas was doing and the whole allegory for Vietnam, I got it. And it wasn't, again, it was the execution. I think that's the first time we saw a little bit of a chink in the execution of Star Wars, even though it wasn't directed by George. Mm-hmm. But it was his story.
Yeah, I was say he wrote it, though.
Because remember, the original version was supposed to be Wookiees.
I was just about to say, so if it would have been Wookiees, do you think it would have been better?
Much better. Much better. And it would have been a stronger allegory, too. Because it's conceivable that the Wookiees could defeat the Empire without the technology, because the Wookiees were very powerful. They would have had the advantage because it would have been on Kashyyyk. Mm-hmm. And they're very resourceful, and you could see them defeating,
I mean, like you said, they're known for pulling arms out of people's.
Yeah, I mean, they're like powerful.
Savages.
I mean, exactly. The Ewoks were like these little methed out teddy bears that just basically like. I mean, it's kind of like, if you look at some of this stuff, it's comical. I mean, you already have, like, the stormtroopers aren't able to hit anything.
Right.
That's why, like, one of the funniest things in A New Hope is when he goes, see these blast marks,
Yeah. These are, yeah, he's like, these are.
Yeah, what was it like? Something about only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise. And I'm like, when?
Yeah.
When are they so precise? I mean, that's why I thought that when Rogue One introduced the Death Troopers and, there was kind of like these higher classification. Now, those guys, those guys were fearsome.
Yeah.
Without question. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like when the stormtroopers are losing to like these methed out teddy bears, it's kind of like, really? I mean, even as a kid. And I was actually only 12 because I hadn't turned 13 yet. I was turning 13 that year, but that wouldn't have been until August. This was May. When I'm watching it as a 12-year-old, I'm like, I don't know. This is a little far-fetched. And it actually took away some of the, like, basically that, that feeling you had about the Empire, about their powerful and, this like.
Yeah, now they seem kind of dopey. And
they seem kind of dopey and exactly. It's like it just didn't feel. It's like it was almost like slapstick.
Yeah. So, okay, if the Ewoks weren't in it, and let's just say it was replaced with Wookiees.
Well, you still had the whole technical thing about, A New Hope just captured everything. I'd still say A New Hope would have been the superior film, but I would have loved. Because there's a lot of things. First of all, I always hate, it's kind of weird, but I hate origin stories in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Especially, yeah.
Only because, it's kind of like when you go back to watch it again, it's like, great, I got to watch these guys meeting for the first time constantly. Mm-hmm. Especially if they have good chemistry.
Right.
That was one of the things that, what movie was it recently? Oh, actually, it was when I was watching, because I recently, like within the last month or something, I went through all the Stranger Things. Like I finally broke down and watched it. Fell in love with the show. A lot of people didn't like season 3. I love season 3 because it was a little bit lighter and had better comedy, but it was also because the characters were just so familiar with each other and you love these characters and, you know, you could see another new adventure with them interacting and stuff like that. It wasn't like, oh, great, now I got to go back and watch these guys meeting for the first time. And, you know, that's why I've always kind of hated the origin story thing.
Right.
And that's one of the things that diminishes A New Hope for me as a viewer is the fact that I constantly have to watch Luke Skywalker, you know, getting to know Obi-Wan and meeting Han and all that, even though as far as origin stories go, I will say there's a lot of cool chemistry and humor, even when they're first meeting. And so even by the time they're like running around the Death Star, you get the sense like they'd been together for a while, even though they hadn't. But by Return of the Jedi, it's like a bunch of old friends going on yet another adventure, and that's what I loved.
All right.
In fact, one of the things that kind of irritated me about the original trilogy in general, as long as we're on the subject, is the fact that they're constantly separating.
Yeah. You hardly saw them like go.
Yeah, you hardly saw them on an adventure together. And that's why, you know, it's funny because when people complain about the sequel trilogy and saying, well, you know, we'll never get to see Han, Luke, and Leia go on an adventure one last time. I'm like, well, other than the Death Star and A New Hope, when were they on an adventure together?
Right.
They weren't.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I mean, you get a little bit in Empire Strikes Back when they're on Hoth. That's it. Other than that, they're separated.
And they're still kind of separated in a way.
In Return of the Jedi, absolutely. Because, sure, they come and they try to rescue each other, but they're not like, really together.
Yeah, they're there with each other for like 12 minutes. And then it's like, all right, man,
that's
see
it.
ya.
And then they're separated again.
Yep, Luke's going to back today, but they're starting off to go find, you know.
Right. So it's kind of like, where's this like illusion that, you know, these guys are going off on an adventure together? Right. I mean, it was kind of sad that Luke and Han never got to sort of reconnect a little bit. But I mean, other than that, that's the thing. And that's the reason why I tend to drift more towards, you know, any kind of film that's in a series, because like Return of the Jedi, even though once again they're not really together, they all know each other, they're old friends, you're seeing familiar characters. You know, of course, I mean, even just for the whole interaction between Vader, the Emperor, and Luke, the whole thing is like instantly elevated in my eyes.
Yes, definitely.
But I mean, if you're going by like a technical discussion and it's more of an objective thing, yeah, I mean, you know, A New Hope was just a way better done film.
Gotcha.
So that would be it.
Okay. All right. Well, I would have to agree with you on that one. I think I'll have to agree with you that
you know you're allowed. It's not Duel of the Fates. We're still in the Cantina, man.
I know, man.
Still in the Cantina.
But
this is where we're all buddy here.
You're right. I still agree that, you know, and like I said, Return of the Jedi is kind of like my second favorite out of the three. But
yeah, as we both agree on that too. I mean, I think that's the thing and honestly, that's where a lot of people sit. Now, what's interesting is there's people that'll flip-flop Return of the Jedi and Empire as their favorite. Very few people will say New Hope is their favorite, even though it's like regarded as one of the best movies of all time.
Right.
And a lot of that, I think, is just because of the adventure aspect. The fact that these characters they got such good chemistry together and it's the events. It's the things that are happening in Return of the Jedi. You know, I mean, but it's kind of like if you're going by an objective discussion. But you guys, actually, I don't even think that they're going to leave anything in the comments that would be, because pretty much this is something that almost everybody universally agrees on.
Yeah.
Now, we've got The Rise of Skywalker coming up.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So what's something that you would really like to see in The Rise of Skywalker that maybe has been missing from maybe some of the other movies, or something that you saw in the other movies that you would love to see done maybe better?
Well, I'll tell you what's funny is going off of this discussion, I think one of the things that we are going to see, is that all the characters are going to be together.
Mm-hmm.
And
at least
actually on an adventure together for at least some part of this film.
Right.
As far as what else I'd really like to see done, I'm curious because, like, you even take the C-3PO thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, there's that character that I forgot who they got playing him, but there's that new character that they announced.
The one that looks like a 7-Up cup? Dio, the little droid?
No, not the droid.
Oh.
This is a guy who basically is known for programming and deprogramming droids.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go, oh, well, I'll bet you he's responsible for either putting 3PO in the red eye mode or he's going to be responsible for taking him out of that mode. But I personally hope that there is some like war mode for him and he gets to do something cool. That would be interesting to me.
Okay.
You know, as far as other stuff, just a really good, satisfying conclusion. I'm really looking forward to this whole
mind-boggling, like last shot.
Yeah, I mean, this is getting a little bit into our featured topic today, but you know, recently Empire Magazine came out with just all these new pictures and this whole new like article and you know, more reveals basically for what this movie is going to be. And you know, JJ's talking about how it's going to be this war to end all wars thing. So I'd kind of like to see sort of like a Lord of the Rings, kind of almost like Two Towers, like big battle type of thing.
Right. Almost like the end Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Some epic,
you
know, thing where you got, you know, on either side, you know, it would be cool. It's like you got every vehicle, you know, it's funny. I was watching Jedi Council last week and they basically were talking about like, you know, you see like tauntauns with rankers with, you know, like something from like every movie in the saga. Mm-hmm. Just this giant war, you know, lightsabers blazing, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
That would be cool to see. You know, other than that, I mean, it's tough. I'd like to see definitely a good conclusion to who Rey's parents are, what that's all about.
Snoke and all that.
Snoke and all that. And of course, Palpatine. I mean, I'd like to see Palpatine actually resurrected, not as like some, you know, holocron or something, or a Sith ghost or whatever it is, but actually resurrected. Yeah, I don't know.
I think for me, I want to see a really good, like, I know it's kind of weird, but I would love to see like a really good like chase or a very good
I mean, kind of like the whole speeder bike scene or from Return of the Jedi,
something like that, but maybe like
that more technically inferior film. So in other words, you want him to ruin the movie is what you're saying.
No teddy bears this time, you know.
Yeah.
But no,
I kind of like to see, I mean, I'm probably going to catch a lot for this, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Ewoks return in some capacity.
They fight the porgs.
Well, yeah.
The gerbils.
The porgs, though, I actually thought they were kind of cute. See, the porgs are a good example, though, because they didn't overdo them. The porgs didn't overthrow the First Order.
Right.
You know, it's like that's the difference.
Yeah, they weren't eating like, or if they would have, because you know how they were eating away at the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah.
So if they were like, you know.
It's like Minoc or something.
Yeah, right. If they were doing that to like the First Order's like ships and stuff like that would be hilarious. But I mean, then again, it would be like, okay, these little things took out the First Order. Yeah,
I mean, I thought they were in there for a little bit of comic relief and like kind of an awe, isn't this cute? And of course, to sell toys, let's be honest.
Right.
But I mean,
when he was about to eat them, that was just the best.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there was some cool scenes with them. You know, of course, they were on the Falcon, like making noises or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was actually like, it wasn't overdone.
Right.
You know, like I said, he didn't overthrow the First Order or anything and setting traps and stuff. But the Ewoks, because actually, I mean, they are like, you know, they were eating stormtroopers and things like that. I mean, they're kind of freaky in a way.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind if, like, you know, maybe if Wicket were now a chief or whatever, and there was a little bit of a scene there. Again, not overdone, but it would make sense, especially if they're on Endor.
Right.
If the rumors are true and they're on Endor.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to see like a really good space battle. We haven't gotten that in this series.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we got a little bit of it in Force Awakens when they all came to kind of rescue Ed Moss's cantina.
Yeah,
basically.
and then when they took on the Starkiller base, but nothing like Revenge of the Sith or
or the or even like A New Hope's like the remastered version,
right?
Of the I love that.
It's funny because the space battle that we see in not the Last Jedi, but in the Force Awakens, kind of reminds me of the space battle that we see in The Phantom Menace. It was there, and it was cool, but it wasn't. Yeah, they had that. It was kind of understated. It was a little
bland.
Yeah,
had no seasoning to it whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah. No, I would love to. This is near and dear to my heart. Can I please get like a legitimate, decent length lightsaber duel?
Well, yeah, we haven't really had one.
Yeah, because in
the sequel trilogy, that's true. Yeah. Oh, I think we're going to get quite a few actually.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Like that's what I'm really looking forward to for Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, same here. Just like I want a lot of the questions answered. I want some really cool Jedi Sith things going on. Mm-hmm. Lengthy lightsaber battles, meaningful lightsaber battles.
Yeah, meaningful, yes.
That would actually be really nice. Who knows?
Yep.
I think we're going to see a lot of things. I think a lot of things that we've been hoping for are going to happen in this. And I'm really hoping that we don't just get this stuff, but we get it in a satisfying way. Because I think that's been one of the main problems that the sequel trilogy in particular has suffered from, is the fact that we get some cool things, but maybe they're not executed in a way that we were all hoping.
Right.
And that's coming from somebody, well, both of us actually. We actually enjoyed The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. Thought that there was a lot of really cool, even brave things that Rian Johnson did, but there's also some things that that movie really suffered from some problems.
Definitely.
All right, well, what do we got next?
Well, next we have Duel of the Fates. All right, so this week we have The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker, versus the Return of the Jedi, Palpatine. Who will win? This is almost like action figure time. Yeah. Like Bespin Han Solo versus Hoth Luke or something,
Yeah. I'd probably have to give it to Luke. Now, I will say that the Legends version of what would be that area would be hands down
Luke.
Yeah, hands down. Like Luke during that many years, there was no way Palpatine could have stood up to that Luke.
All right.
Grandmaster, Jedi Lord or whatever.
Yeah, he's practically like a god.
Yeah, practically like a god. Last Jedi Luke is ultra powerful, but a little bit more grounded. Mm-hmm. That said, you could just tell by certain little things that his mastery of the Force is like kind of scary. Yeah. To the point that, just the fact that like you've never, and that's one of the things I loved about The Last Jedi, which a lot of people don't really give credit for, but the fact that like he could cut himself off from the Force. Like, how do you do that? Yeah.
Like,
actually, that's very true.
Like, how do you do that?
That's
like if it's in every living
power.
thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In every living thing, the Force exists, and you shut yourself off from that. Like that's like taking yourself. Like I'm gonna breathe without breathing. Mm-hmm. Like how? So I thought that was pretty dope.
But there was even just like little things that he would do with the Force. And you're just like, man, he wasn't even like thinking about it or whatever.
Like that little stick fight with Rey, and he just, when he fell.
Oh, yeah.
It was
just like caught himself.
Yeah. It was just kind of
and there was also things like he would move or call things to him or whatever. It was just like effortless. And yeah, it's just like you could just tell like, okay, this guy, like he wasn't flaunting it, but you could tell he was really powerful. And then, of course, not to mention the whole last projecting himself from
across the galaxy,
from across the galaxy
and physically touching people.
Yeah, I just think that, and then of course if he were attacked by Force lightning, I'm sure he would absorb it.
Oh yeah, I mean, Lucas, honestly, like, this is a true testament of his power. And Ray hands him the lightsaber. He just tosses like, I don't need this. Like, it's like, for what? And
I just honestly think that Last Jedi Luke, again, it's understated, and I think that's why everybody has like such a problem with it, because everybody's focused on the fact that he's not the lightsaber wielding hero that everybody wanted. Mm-hmm. But when you really stop and think of the power that he has, that's why I think it was so funny that when Yoda visits him, he almost goes back into like whiny Empire Luke in a way. It's kind of like that dynamic is still there, even though Luke is more Yoda's peer at that point. Yeah, it's kind of like when you kind of look at your dad and it's like, okay, you're definitely a grown man, but it's still like, that's still your dad. It's still your dad, and there's that dynamic. And,
so you still kind of like, no, Dad, I just want to do this. And
exactly.
Like, why don't you understand this? And I love the fact that he could still be that way in a way. Just be that way with Yoda. But that whole, because when I first saw it in the theater when we were watching it, man, I'm thinking like, dude, he's that powerful that like he can allow a lightsaber to pass through him. Like, I was just like, yeah,
that's true too. At first, I wasn't even sure that was a hologram. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, so what's that all about?
Well, especially when they started firing all that stuff at him, and he just was still standing there, and he just wiped his shoulder off.
I kind of wish that he had
actually been there.
Basically, that he had been there and he had just deflected it or something. And just like, okay, you just unleashed all this firepower on me and it does nothing.
Yeah, or if he would just reach his hand up and just like crush one of the AT-AT, like that
would have been awesome. Man,
I would have lost my mind.
That would have been incredible. Yeah, that right there would be akin to. I think it was in like some.
Well, like when.
No, it was no. What was that game?
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. Yeah.
When you could
where
pull,
he
like,
brings down Star Destroyers and just crashes them and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he had just like cupped his hand and grasped it and just crushed an AT-AT, and then the thing just like falls, that would have just been incredible. And that's the kind of thing that
you want to see.
You want to see it, and I think that there are certain cases where it would still be good storytelling and everything would be cool, but you do have to admire, Rian Johnson for not falling for the fan service and sticking to his guns and basically going, no, I got a slightly different story to tell. That would be cool, though.
Right.
But, because the other little fanboy dream I've always had, whether it was Luke or somebody else, is they build another Death Star-like thing, and they fire that laser and he's on the planet and he just holds his hand up and just basically absorbs.
Oh, with the Force, yeah.
And then shoots it back on him and it blows up the Death Star. See, that to me would have been kind of a cool, if you want to do another super weapon thing, that would have been kind of a cool twist to me.
Definitely, yeah, that would have been that would have been dope.
So I mean, I think we can agree that Last Jedi Luke would probably win. But what about you guys? Do you guys think that Return of the Jedi Palpatine would still crush him? I mean, we are talking about the most powerful Sith Lord ever, so I wouldn't fault you for that. But if you're gonna say that, you got to let us know in the comments. You got to defend your point now.
Yep.
We're tough, but we're fair. So I think that's
pick up a lightsaber and man your post.
Exactly. I think that'll be good. Or hit us up at Head to Head SW on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let us know there what you guys think. What do we got
next? We have From a Certain Point of View. All right,
it's our featured topic for those of you who are just kind of tuning into the show.
Yes, sir. So as of today,
tonight, the rumors are strong with this.
Mm-hmm.
On October 21st, during, tonight's game.
Yep, Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football. we're probably going to see the new full-length trailer.
Right, not a featurette, but
not a featurette, but a full-length trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. The question that we're posing to you and we're going to pose to each other is what we think we're going to see. Now, next week, we're probably going to do a trailer review.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before, we were just kind of playing the trailer and, you know, and that's what we're going to do, obviously, on this monitor. We'll make it appear on the monitor. You know? But we'll actually do a full-blown trailer review. And we'll talk about what we actually did see. But this week, even though the trailer's coming out tonight, so if you listen to this thing tomorrow, more than likely, you know, this speculation's going to be out of date. But whatever, we're doing it.
Yep.
So what do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of heavy breathing in this trailer.
So do you think we're going to get some Darth Vader stuff?
Not Darth Vader, just heavy breathing. You know, they always...
That's true.
All the trailers have had like these heavy breathing, you know, from Force Awakens to Last Jedi. It's always had some heavy breathing in it. So I'm thinking...
That's a good point.
Might get some more heavy breathing. No, but I know we're probably definitely going to see more of Rey and Kylo. I don't know if they're going to spoil it and show us Palpatine. Because I've been wondering, like, do I want to see Palpatine?
I do.
In a trailer?
You know how I want to see him? If they're going to show him, and they can do this without really spoiling. Same way they did Vader in Rogue One. You just show, he doesn't say anything. You just, like, he's just, like, wherever he is, and he smiles or something or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of like how they actually didn't put it in the movie, ironically, but you remember in Rogue One, the trailer, how they had Vader like at some control panel or something? Yeah,
you just saw like his silhouette.
Yeah, and he was like there, but he was like, yeah, It was basically like he was on the Death Star in a control panel. Now, they didn't show that scene at all.
Right.
But, you know, something like that. He didn't say anything.
Mm-mm.
You know, you could just show Palpatine without any dialogue or anything like that, but you do have a point. It's like, do they want to give away what form he's going to be?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
like,
that's the question.
Yeah, like, how do we... And you got to wonder, like, okay, I don't want to see too much.
Yeah, I don't either. And that's something that I...
And already we've kind of seen some stuff we just don't know the context.
And that's what I think we're going to see more of for this. I think we're probably going to see some more Rey and Kylo stuff. Now, whether we see a dark side Rey thing going again, you know, are they going to expound? That's the thing. Are they going to expound upon the things that we saw in that featurette?
Right.
You know, are we going to see more Red Eye C-3PO? Are we going to see, you know, more potential dark side Rey things? I personally think that what we're going to see is just stuff it's going to be more like scenes that don't necessarily have the context, but pique our curiosity.
So I think we're definitely going to see Knights of Ren.
Yeah, because they've already featured them. In fact, they showed them in that Empire magazine that I was talking about. They're
even on like the cover of one. So
well, and the thing that's funny about it is they don't, you know, they have names. I mean, they haven't released the names, but
they have like a lot of melee weapons, and like they're on the cover of the new encyclopedia, I think, for Star Wars. They're on the cover, and they have like
I mean they're definitely being featured prominently, so I think we're going to get a little bit of context with the Knights of Ren. You know, it was announced that they're not going to ever show their faces, or they just have these like rusty old masks and armor and everything. And
I think we're going to see Kylo leading the First Order. I think we're going to see some stuff with Poe and Lando. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of Leia stuff because they got to conserve that stuff for the movie.
Yeah. I think we'll get some. I think it'll be the same as the
or maybe just like a quick turn to her face or something like that.
She'll just turn and look or something.
You know,
it could be. That's the thing that's really interesting about this is that they do have. It's like, how much do they want to give away? Now, what they could do is they could give us like a little bit of a story, but maybe it's not the really big, meaty stuff. Maybe it's just a little bit, because that's generally with these full trailers, they start telling an actual story.
Do you think we're going to hear Luke's voice?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, I'll keep that
It's
up.
possible. If they do, it's almost like how Palpatine, another way they could do Palpatine is they do a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could do something with Luke's voice. I mean, hey, we got Luke's voice in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they're going to show a Force Ghost Luke, though.
Right.
So it's possible.
I think we're going to see some of the new characters. I think we're going to get introduced to them, like more Dio, more Kira, because we haven't seen her really in any of the marketing.
Well, and then there's also what's the bounty hunter's name? Well, she's not a bounty hunter, I don't think. Well, maybe the one from the new Hoth planet. Well, I'm really. She's got it's Kerry Russell's character.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kira.
No.
Oh, no, wait.
Everybody to you is named Kira.
I know, right?
I mean, there's Kira and Solo. You're talking about. I know who you're talking about, but I mean, I'm talking about Kerry Russell's character. We might see more of her.
Yeah.
On that planet. Could
Jimmy?
Yes.
Something like that. We'll figure it out. We'll hear about it in the movie.
Yes, we're the Star Wars podcast, everybody. It's like, apparently a lot of things that we see are going to be very new to us.
Hey, do you know how long it took me to have figured out how to say Kashyyyk? So, hey.
Or,
when I was reading it in the books, I was like, how do you even pronounce this?
Oh, yeah, I know. I think when I first started reading in the books, because Timothy Zahn actually reintroduced it in the whole like Zahn trilogy, the Legends one. And I think I said Kashyyyk or something. Mm-hmm. Like I was close.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
I was really close.
I think we're going to see more of the First Order in this particular trailer. I think we're going to see and I think we might see more of those like Sith troopers, like that whole Emperor with the whole Star Destroyers. I think we're going to see more of those, more of a battle type thing, like a battle that's about to brew, like that. What we saw in the featurette.
I think we're going to see the Star Wars logo. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it's a challenge that these guys have.
Yeah.
They don't want to give away too much. They got to show you things that are going to
excite you.
And that's why I think we could see Palpatine in this trailer, because we already heard his voice for the first one. And then, of course, you actually hear his voice again, actually, because the first one you hear is laugh.
Yeah.
And then you actually hear him, talk about your journey is coming to an end. And I think that, okay, everybody knows that Palpatine is back. This is not a mystery. This is not a surprise that, you're holding for the movie-going audience.
Yeah, we know.
You've established that he's back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would make sense now to actually bring him into the trailer to really get people amped up. Because now you're going to see in episode 9, like a post-Return of the Jedi Palpatine for the very first time.
Yeah, I think, I would love to see it's like an over-the-shoulder shot of Palpatine looking at Rey. Like she's like standing in front of him with like her lightsaber ignited.
Sure, they could do something like that.
And you just, but you can see like Palpatine's form and you're just like, man, you still can kind of keep it in the air of mystery of like, is it really him or is it someone? Is it memory?
Remember back when Rogue One came out and everybody was like, why is the Emperor kneeling to Vader?
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Like everybody was like trying to speculate, like, who is this guy in this robe?
Yeah, this is
ended up being like his little assistant or something. Exactly. And all this wild speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Something along those lines, but obviously a little different. Yeah, they could show like an over-the-shoulder type of thing, or, it's like the point of view's from behind Palpatine and you're looking at Rey.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that some of the things that they introduced in the featurette, they might need to,
Expound.
just expand the whole concept.
Because a lot of it had to do with just all the other, most of the featurette was just a bunch of stuff from like older movies.
Well, yeah, the first half, without question. And this is what's interesting, because if it's a full-length trailer, it's probably going to be about 2.5 minutes.
Well, it's actually supposed to be longer than Force Awakens.
Yeah, but when you look at that, though, they're saying like, okay, Force Awakens will say 2:32, and this might be like 2:36. I mean, it's not going to be super significant.
Like 2:50 or anything like that.
But that said, you know, the featurette was around 2.5 minutes, but as you pointed out, like half of that was just old footage.
Right.
You know, you really only got like maybe 45 seconds to a minute or something of actual new stuff. So that means they have to fill the whole time up with all new stuff.
Yeah. But I think we're going to see like just some cool shots of like TIE fighters. I think we're going to see some shots of Finn, just the maturation of Finn. I think we're going to see some of that.
You think you'll see Rose in this trailer?
Maybe like for a hot second. Nothing like really pertinent.
I also wonder if
she might be like on a ship or something like that, you know.
You know, if Maz Kanata shows up in the trailer.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I mean, it really comes down to like what scenes they're going to show. Because I'm not so sure now with a full-length trailer that they're going to just show like, I mean, yeah, there's going to be like little quick scenes of, you know, characters and stuff like that. But I think that you're actually going to see some sort of a story thread. Now, it could be one of those throw you off the track, kind of like Rogue One. Although, if we remember, the trailer, probably because of the extensive reshoots, it was like the movie that you were thinking you were going to see in the trailer. Like, none of those scenes were in the movie at all. But it seems to me like they're going to have to, like, put some kind of a story arc together for the trailer.
Right.
So they don't want to give away too much, but they do want to put now context in a lot of these scenes that we've been seeing.
Yeah, I think it would.
And maybe that's what they'll do. Maybe they'll just take the scenes that we saw in that featurette and put a little bit of context to them and leave it at that.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see like Kylo trying to hunt down Rey. I think that's
absolutely
going to be in there. And
but see, again, that would give context to that lightsaber duel.
The lightsaber duel, and also that whole thing in the sand when, you know, the TIE fighter is coming across the desert and she turns and like
I wonder if that's a vision. You know, I actually wonder if that's even a real thing.
It may be it looks like it could be a vision.
No, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, only way to find it.
What about you guys? Leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know before tonight the trailer actually comes. But leave in the comment section and even leave, you know, what you guys think. We will talk about this next week. We will, you know, talk about, we'll probably do a trailer review. That's probably what next week's show is going to be.
Definitely.
And
got to talk about it.
Yeah. You know, that's what we do. It's a podcast. All right. Well, next, we actually have one of my favorite segments. I say this all the time. I actually say it every week. But it's where we answer your questions, and it's a segment we like to call Clear Your Mind. That's right. This is where you guys submit questions to us, and we answer them to the best of our ability. And even if we can't give you a solid answer on them, we'll at least tell you what, we'll just make something up, but we'll actually tell you guys what we think. Because that's what this is about. It's a discussion show, not a news show. Who's our first...
our first caller, I guess.
The whole victim of the Sarlacc or whatever.
All right. This has been submitted by Talia Ryan. I think one thing is missing is a love element in the sequel trilogy. Do you miss it? Is it too late to bring one in for The Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, I don't know that it's been completely missing when you look at the whole Finn and Rose thing, though.
But yeah, that's
pretty definitive, man. When she kisses him at the end, is like love can or whatever.
Well,
you know, it wasn't like
you don't miss it.
It wasn't something as stupid as like love can conquer all or whatever, but it was, you know, along those lines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, the whole. But I don't think
very Romeo and Juliet. You know, he was trying to kill himself.
Right.
She saves him. Mm-hmm. You know, and then
I don't think it was. I mean, I guess if they build upon it in Rise of Skywalker.
Sure,
maybe.
because think about it. If you look at the whole Leia Han thing.
Yeah, they didn't like each other first. Yep.
And it was kind of like the whole time. And it wasn't until the very end when he's getting... I mean, they were kind of warming up to each other in Cloud City. You know, she's kissing him and stuff. And
well, he kissed her, you know, when they were in the mouth of that, whatever that thing was on the...
Yeah. But I mean, that was when she was like... That was kind of like their...
breaking moment.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing, and they started to realize it, and it was a real slow progression, real slow realization.
Because you look at their relationship in A New Hope, like they were at each other's throats.
Yeah, and even for the first part of, you know, you could tell there was something there, but it wasn't.
Well, yeah, even Han knew that. He was just trying to draw it out of her because he didn't want to be the one.
That's where it was handled somewhat comedically. Now, what Talia is probably talking about is. That was the one thing that was missing from The Last Jedi. They were definitely developing a relationship, and Rose was definitely into him.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess she was kind of like the Han type of thing, and he could have been like the Leia.
The role reversal.
You know, and then at the end, you know, she kisses him and stuff. Now, hey, we don't know, because John Boyega seems to be hinting towards the fact that he's still single in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that was the...
You know, we'll have to... But then again, that could have been JJ going, hey, tell everybody, you know, you're single or whatever.
Or maybe he's at the start of it, and then maybe he kind of...
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're probably messing with us. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
That's what Lucasfilm and its employees do. They make these great movies, and then they screw with our emotions, like, in between, and then...
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, I don't necessarily know that the love element was missing. So,
I mean, I kind of get her point because, like, in the original trilogy, of course, we had Han and Leia. And then, of course, in the prequel, you had Padme and Anakin.
Right.
So it was like a definitive, like, thing that even kind of went through all three movies.
Yeah,
though.
but you kind of, well, yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, yes and no, because it could have been Luke and Leia. For all we knew in A New Hope, because he was expressing interest. I mean, that whole sister thing didn't come up until later, so it was kind of like...
True.
You know, and they didn't even meet Leia till like halfway through that movie. It wasn't until Empire that you got a little bit of Han and Leia, but you could compare that to Rose and Finn.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that. I know.
You know, because the whole love thing between Luke and Leia, or Han and Leia, finally came to fruition in Return of the Jedi, just like Rose and Finn could in Rise of Skywalker.
True.
So I don't know if it was really truly missing, and obviously it's not too late because they could just hook those two up, you know, or they can part as friends or whatever, and then somebody else. But I don't know. And the love element, I don't necessarily think is 100% necessary in Star Wars. I think there's enough really good, meaty stories that you could tell within the universe that you don't necessarily need that. Although, obviously, romantic relationships are a part of
Star Wars,
you know, our life, and they are a part of Star Wars without question. Especially like you said, the whole Padme Anakin thing.
Yeah, that was from day one.
That was from day one, and that was kind of responsible for why Anakin did what he did.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I just don't think that would be. I just don't think it's really truly missing yet.
Okay.
Because if you even look at The Force Awakens, I mean, Finn seemed like he was trying to hook up with Rey.
He was.
You know, he's asking her if you have a boyfriend. I mean, love was not exactly missing.
Well, yeah, he was trying, but then she kept, you know, friend zoning. Of course, that by the end of the movie,
right?
She definitely
but I mean,
put him in a friend zone.
The point is the element's still there. I mean, I guess now if you're talking about like a full blown relationship, I still point to the Rose and Finn thing being very much like Han and Leia. We'll just have to see what happens in The Rise of Skywalker.
All right.
So what's next? Or who's next?
We have Mark Wilson. And he asked the question, would it be more satisfying for Rey to destroy Palpatine or Kylo? This is a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those ones. You know how I always say that I wish, like, I never study our outlines. I'd like to have that immediacy, because one of the reasons why we started this whole thing was, you know, when people would see us discussing Star Wars, they'd be like, oh, you should do a show. And so we did. Well, if I study the outlines too much, you lose that spontaneity, and then it isn't what makes our discussions, I guess, interesting for people to watch. On the other hand, you get a question like this, and you're like, man.
Wish I had more time to think about it.
Yeah, I wish I had more time to think about it. But I would say it would be more emotionally satisfying, I think, for her to destroy Kylo because there's an established relationship between the two, and there would be more at stake. You're familiar with him. She doesn't even know who Palpatine is.
Well, she probably does.
I think it would be satisfying for Kylo to destroy Palpatine. Because if you think about it, Palpatine,
represents everything that...
Well, not to mention the fact that Kylo thinks he's the supreme leader of the First Order right now. Palpatine comes around, that's a threat to that. So he's kind of like, oh yeah, destroy the old thing, this is where this guy falls. Yeah, man, you got to go. And now, they might go with the whole redemption angle. If they do, then obviously Kylo would destroy Palpatine because he's turning back to the light or whatever. I think that it would be emotionally satisfying for Rey to destroy Kylo. Again, this isn't necessarily all the ways that I want all this stuff to end, but if we're going within the context of this question, I would say it'd be more satisfying because you have had this relationship building between Rey and Kylo and this connection. So there's emotional weight if she destroys him or he destroys her.
I think I would like to see Rey destroy Palpatine just because I think it would just be, especially if she ends up being a clone.
Well, okay, there is that angle too. If she ends up being a clone, then yes. But I still have to say I'd rather see Kylo do it because Kylo's related to the Skywalkers. Yeah,
I mean, you could technically say like a Skywalker finally defeated. I mean, again. Well,
because the Skywalker defeated him last time.
Well, true.
Anakin.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think that's why I want to see Rey do it, because I think Rey because if Kylo does it, I feel like it's a rehash of Vader, and especially he's got the helmet thing, and I just feel like it's a rehash of Return of the Jedi. I would like to see Rey do it because, if she's going to be...
If she does it, his helmet might start glowing because he's so angry.
But I
remember last week's question about, if
his helmet glows when he's
exactly
angry. Yeah, but I think if Rey...
It's like a hot plate.
It's a glow-in-the-dark feature. But right? No, but I think if Rey did it, it would be more satisfying because it would truly mean that, like, okay, she's destroyed a Sith Lord. One, I mean, that would truly put, granted, I know they're trying to get rid of the whole Jedi Sith thing now. Yeah, which means at some point, that's why it would be cleaner if Kylo defeated him and then Rey defeated him, and then I don't know what happens to her. See, if Palpatine and Rey killed each other, then Kylo's the only one left. Technically, it'd be a Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, see, that's the other thing is we got to figure out why is this thing called the Rise of Skywalker? Yeah. But yet, we're talking about the Jedi and Sith are going to end. It's like, how does this all work? Right. But again, that's going beyond the scope. So you're saying that it would just be more satisfying for you if Rey destroyed Palpatine. Yeah, I want Rey. I get that especially if she is a clone and he had something to do with her creation, or or if she's his, if she's the granddaughter or daughter of. Yeah, there's also the relationship. Because then it's like, okay, Palpatine finally got bested by his own. I mean, and there would be something satisfying about that. Yeah, like the poetic justice. Almost. But you know what? Even if they weren't related, let's just say that he either created or trained or something. It's almost like, this person that he pretty much created or trained or whatever to, reassume control of the galaxy, turns on him yet again, destroys him yet again.
it's almost kind of like poetic justice in a way.
But I think it's also cool because if you got to think about like Snoke, I mean, Kylo already destroyed Snoke. So it's time for Rey's got to destroy somebody like big and powerful. You know what I mean? So it's just like, all right, you had Snoke.
Well, and that could be kind of like her, it could be like kind of her final thing.
Yeah. That kind of pushes her over to the edge of like, okay, I finally became who I was supposed to be.
Well, hey, maybe we'll get some clues in that trailer tonight.
Hopefully.
We'll see. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show for this week. Like I said, check us out next week when we definitely go over the trailer and review it and
break it all down.
Break it all down, and give our thoughts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our show this week. Be sure to leave a comment in the comment section below. Let us know. Hit us up at Head to Head SW on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you guys. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Darryl Sanders.
And may the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Head to Head SW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.